Hello. So in this video, I'm going to be going over why people can eat the same exact diet and yet get different results. This can also explain why you can eat the same diet for a year or more and then the results you were getting initially stop coming. You start getting fat in a diet that once made you skinny. Start feeling terrible on a diet that used to make you feel good. Or why you and your friends could grow up eating the same foods, but maybe you were always the fat kid and your friends were not the fat kid. They were skinny effortlessly, but you're like, we eat the same foods. How are they skinny and I'm not? So there's a few factors that determine this. First of all is going to be your gut microbiome and gut microbiome health. That's determined by a lot of factors: your upbringing, antibiotic exposure, your parents' gut microbiome, whether you were born vaginally or through a C-section, and if you have a dysfunctional gut microbiome, your friends and other people don't, then that will definitely cause you to react much more negatively to food than they do, even if it's the same foods. In addition to that, there's also food intolerances. Like, you may simply be intolerant to certain foods that they are not intolerant to. One man's food is another man's poison. So if you're intolerant to a food and they're not intolerant to it, and you eat that food and they eat that food, then you'll react negatively and they won't. Gluten's a very common one. A lot of people, about 30% of the population, have some mild reaction to gluten. I think only 5% of the population actually has celiac, but like a full 30% of people would do better if they cut out gluten. So if you and your friends all go out to Panera Bread, you get the same thing, you all eat the same thing, and you're 30 pounds overweight and you have anxiety, acne, and a bunch of stuff, and they don't, and they seem to be effortlessly healthy, they simply might not be intolerant to the foods that you're both consuming. But if your diet were somehow different, there are foods that they could be intolerant to that you aren't. It's just simply that of the foods that we're all commonly exposed to, you may be intolerant to those foods and other people might not be. It's very, very common. The third reason that you could be reacting differently to the same diet than other people are is that your metabolic type is different. Metabolic type is determined by genetics, and ultimately it determines what ratios of fat, protein, carbohydrates that your body does best on. The basic metabolic types are protein type, carbo type, and mixed type, and they're pretty evenly spread out throughout the population. So about a third of people are protein types, a third of people are mixed types, and a third of people are carbo types. And what type you are will fluctuate a little bit depending on your what athletic things you're doing, your physical activity level, and like the season and just normal fluctuations in your body, but you will definitely tend towards one of these. So often people who can do very well on a vegan diet for a while, because no one does well on a vegan diet permanently, people who do well on a vegan diet for a while or a vegetarian diet for a long time are definitely carbo types. Carbo types do better with more alkaline foods. They do worse with more acidic foods. And they generally do better to stay away from red meats and foods that have high amounts of purines in them. And they do better with much lighter meats like chicken, fish, eggs, yogurt as a protein source, etc. Or even like nuts as protein sources, plant-based proteins. Carbo types do much better with that, but they also need less protein as a general rule of thumb. And they also have a slower metabolism, so that carbs will give them energy for a longer period of time. If you're a protein type, then you have a faster metabolism, which means if you eat carbohydrates, you'll get a quick insulin spike, and then your blood sugar will drop very dramatically. And then you'll get hungry again, you'll end up eating more. This causes metabolic dysfunction and like unstable energy levels. Generally also addiction to caffeine. Find yourself very dependent on caffeine. You are likely a protein type who is compensating for dietary needs with stimulants. Carbo types in general can have like 1 cup of coffee in the morning and they're good all day because they metabolize things much more slowly. Protein types, though, just pounding the coffee. There's a few other differences, but if you're a protein type and you're eating like a carbo type, you're going to get fat, you're going to have metabolic dysfunction, hormone dysfunction, could lead to cancer, all sorts of dysfunction. If you're a carbo type eating like a protein type, then you're also not going to do very well either. So, and if you're a mixed type, then you should be eating like a mixed type. If you're eating too much like a carbo type or too much like a protein type, that will also not do your body any good. So ultimately, you have to recognize what foods work best for you, what you may or may not have gotten from your parents in terms of gut microbiome diversity, enzymes, etc. And make sure you're always consuming fermented foods, consuming lots of probiotic foods so that you can enhance your gut bacteria, which was really going to help with everything from like decreasing inflammation, increasing cognitive performance, decreasing stress, improving sleep quality, improving hormone quality, improving your sex life, and improving nutrient absorption and the breakdown of food most of all. And recognize, though, also your metabolism. Like, are you a protein type? In which case, you do much better on a ketogenic diet, high protein diet, maybe even a carnivore diet for a long period of time. Then you can like have periods where you introduce more carbs and then go back to eating a very, very high protein, high fat diet with very, very low carbs. Though having periods where you have higher carbs because that contrast helps keep your body healthy. And or are you a carbo type where you can just eat pasta and bagels and you feel great? Pasta, bagels, apples, salad. If you're a protein type, conversely, salad probably doesn't agree with you as much. Like you probably have a harder time digesting salad. Might make you feel bloated, and this has to do with protein type digestion. Again, if you're a carbo type, though, red meat may make you feel bloated, but also focus on your gut because if you have a dysfunctional gut, everything will make you bloated. And if you're eating foods that you are specifically intolerant to, those will also make you bloated as well. So don't think that just because some diet works for some person, that diet is going to work for you, or don't think that just because one diet worked for you for a while, that diet is going to keep working for you forever, because our metabolic needs change, and if we don't adapt our diet to meet our changing metabolic needs, then we'll experience metabolic dysfunction and then overall body dysfunction as well. So hope this has been very helpful. Done.